the #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.
Good morning, guys, and welcome to episode 133 of Costa Rica Real Estate and Investments with me, your host, Richard Beckson. Today, we're going to be talking with Shawn Ferguson, broker and owner of Exclusive Homes Costa Rica. He's been here in Costa Rica since 2008, so I think he knows his stuff. And during that time, he's helped a lot of people buy and invest in Costa Rica. He's focused I would say, more on the Central Pacific, Manuel Antonio, Dominical, Uvita, or Chao. So we're going to be getting his opinion on what's happening in the market, where it's good to invest, and also where he would invest his own money as well. So going to be a great podcast today, as always. I appreciate all the emails and contacts that everybody's having here. I know that quite a few of you have chatted with me as well. A lot of you are actually working with us as well. It's actually very busy here at the moment. I've been asking quite a few people, hey, are things slowing down? I think they've slowed down a little bit, but not really too much. I think a lot of people are just sick and tired and just want to get out, or are sitting on cash and really don't know what to do with it at the moment. So we're looking to make an investment that's also it's a fun, as I like to say, sexy investment, Costa Rica, or a lifestyle investment. So anyone looking to do anything here in Costa Rica, feel free to reach out to us, info@investingcostarica.com, info@investingcostarica.com. But let's get straight into the podcast. Good morning, Shawn. How are you doing?
Great. How are you doing?
Very, very good. Really appreciate you taking time out of what I know is a very busy high season for you to come and chat with us here on the podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Not at all. Well, Shawn, the first question I always like to ask is just get a bit of an update on what you're seeing happening in, the market, especially with current, world economic conditions. I mean, what are you seeing from your side?
Well, that's a big question and a really good one. From our side, if you look back to 2007-8, when you had the banking crisis in the U.S., it created this massive problem in the real estate market worldwide, economically worldwide. We've had a real tough time in the marketplace generating sales, people looking to buy real estate offshore anywhere, especially even in Costa Rica. But we saw ourselves getting back on the path to what I call the pre-2007 curve. And after that pent-up demand from COVID, we've had a huge boom. 2022, I think that was worldwide, even in the U.S. reports, outstanding sales, record-breaking sales even. And here we had the same effect. And that continues. So I think we're pretty much back on the 2007 real estate curve, or pre-07 real estate curve. And that's what I'm seeing in the marketplace. Especially in our area, and we have some unique issues to our area that create a limited amount of space and land that other places in the world and Costa Rica don't have.
Yeah, I mean, if you were looking to your crystal ball and to look for the out the rest of this year, because I think this is what a lot of people are looking for, is just okay, is Costa Rican real estate going to slow down this year? If I'm thinking of making an investment, should I wait? My advice to people always is, when's the best time to, plant a tree? Today. Don't,
today.
Don't do it in the future, because you just don't know what's happening. But I think also we're seeing, typically the industry here was focused a lot more on people having second homes, retirees, whereas now it's actually people moving here and living here, and people making investments here as well.
Yeah, exactly. So when I think about the market again, we have such a diverse group of people coming down, and you're right, it was about second homes, vacation rental. Now we're seeing infrastructure investment. I should say infrastructure as in governmental infrastructure. We see a lot of that too, with the government picking up the pace. But we also see a lot of bigger hotels going in, bigger developments coming back. As well as the marketplace is just going up and up and up. Do I see 2003 being bigger and better than 2022? Actually, I don't. I see it getting back on the curve I referred to in the 2007. I think we had an anomaly after the pent-up demand.
Yep.
Prices up, and we had a real inventory challenge here last 8 months ago, we're kind of getting out of the inventory. We have more inventory to pick from, choose from, sell from. But with that, as I mentioned, basically the areas I work from Manuel Antonio to Ocho. Manuel Antonio being its own little island in ocean view properties, and it goes out flat to the Mato Paulo area, then Dominical, then you start this ridge line that runs down to Ocho. From that, that's kind of the sweet spot for property. People want to have that ocean view, but easy access to the tropical beaches, right? So, but once that's gone, then what? That's kind of the thing. So there is a limited opportunity on that type of property.
I agree. I mean, I think that that's the one thing people need to understand here is just that, like, here in Costa Rica, we may have a lot of land, but the infrastructure in order to build on it, especially the water infrastructure, is really going to be the limiting resource for people. And there are options available, but, not everybody wants to do that hard work. So, I mean, I think as you said it though, Shawn, we have more inventory, but it's not excessive inventory by any means.
Yeah, that's correct. And we are running into those problems. And recently they changed the national laws as far as subdividing and segregating properties.
Yep.
So that's created yet another layer and barrier to acquiring raw land in different areas.
Yeah.
And as you just mentioned, the water issue is real and needs to be verified before anyone purchases anything, land or homes, is do they have approved water? Big issue that they came after. That is they being the environmental groups, MANI anyways, from Costa Rica, excuse me, because they want to know where the water's at, how it's being used, and it just makes general sense, right? They're doing the right thing.
Yeah, no, I agree, because a lot of people were subdividing land before, not with any water rights, and people were buying it and figuring out that he had no legal water source,
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
and I just want to be clear to anyone listening is Costa Rica doesn't have a water problem. We have tons of water. It's more the infrastructure in place to get that water to, places.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the biggest thing. And there's water. I mean, there's water everywhere.
Everywhere, man. I mean,
it's not like we're going to run out, but, it is a matter of having the adequate piping and pressures and, a modern day water system would have. They've got to make sure that they have everything in place, and they need to know where the water's been taken from or is coming from.
I agree. I mean, what would be your advice to anyone looking to invest in Costa Rica?
Gosh, I would say find the right team.
Yep.
Period. You've got to find the right people to surround yourself with, and easier said than done. Because, well, as you know, in Costa Rica, there is no licensure for real estate agents, who often represent real estate sales, of course, and also investment sales into the investment market within the real estate market.
Yep.
So there are people and professionals that are legit. I heard one of your panelists, if you will, say, real estate's like the dark art. And I thought of that, and I kept that word in my repertoire because I thought, that's an interesting way to put it. I wouldn't go that far. It sounds a little like dark. Most real estate agents, professional real estate agents, there is different types of agents out there, as you know. So literally, any one of your listeners could come down to Costa Rica tomorrow and say, all right, I'm a real estate agent.
Yep.
He or she's a real estate agent. Obviously, that's not probably the person you want to work with unless they had a lot of experience dealing with Costa Rican real estate. Now, with that, there are a few things you can check if you're hiring the right real estate person to work with. Have they been in the area? Well, first, are they legal to work in Costa Rica?
Yep.
I mean, those guys they're tourists, perpetual tourism. We can get into that whole subject, but that's another story. But they're not even legal to work here. Secondly, are they affiliated with the boards? There's CCCBR, CRGAR. These are our boards that we work with. We're part of them, of course. And they're kind of like the next step of credentialing. And also, are they affiliated with the International Association of Realtors? That's based out of the US. We are, of course. And the other thing that agents have to do these days is be also registered with SUHEP. Now, SUHEP's more concerned about not property sales, they're more concerned about money laundering or something of that nature, or narcotics or drugs, of those things. I want to make sure people aren't doing bad things with big investments. And that makes sense. We're all about it. Matter of fact, the group I work with, we're all about having some regulation and some standards, because the reality is I've had people walk into my office literally this has happened. Said, hey, I gave this taxi guy $5,000 for deposit in a property. And I said, would you do that in your home country?
I mean, I don't know what happened, Shawn. I mean, it's like someone gets their first pina colada and like all of their, I would say, inhibitions that they would have in the States of investing or whatever just go away.
Yeah, it's I'm still laughing because and the poor people, because they just I don't know what they were thinking.
Yeah.
There are great attorneys, surveyors, home inspectors, and that's part of your team, just to mention a few, that really you have to find the people who know how to do real estate in Costa Rica. It works very similar as in the US, Canada, or other countries if you're working with the right people, and they should be able to explain to you the process from A to Z, and at the end, you should end up with whatever you're looking for, whatever your dream property is or investment goals are. So with that said, I would say, first and foremost, find the right people to work with.
I agree. I mean, you just mentioned one of the mistakes there, but I mean, what do you think are some of the other biggest mistakes that you've seen people make?
Well, sorry to other people. Yeah, there's a bunch.
There's a long list, I'm sure, but
yeah, I mean, I've seen people, and I've asked them straight up. I want to know who my client is so I can best help them. I've had people come down; they have no experience in the hotel business, for example, and they're looking at hotels. Like, so, it's hard to put that conversation together a little bit without insulting them, but you kind of have to have it. So why would you buy something you know nothing about? And running a hotel or motel or a relatively good sized B&B is a lot different than running a home, a rental home, or any other type of business. So it's kind of important to see. I've seen a lot of people fail for that reason. They bought into the dream, the lifestyle, but not really realizing the work commitment that's going to go in behind running that hotel or investment property. So, I would suggest you find something that you know something about before you make an investment offshore. And I've seen that happen quite a bit. And I don't think that's really the fault of the client. It's just they have dreams and aspirations, maybe semi-retired, want to kick back and run a hotel. But from my experience, running a hotel is nothing close to being semi-retired.
I completely agree, Shawn. Having owned, built, developed a hotel, not knowing what it was that I was doing, I got my ass kicked. But, I mean, I was lucky just because, we had Costa Rica's largest travel company to connect it to. So, it's running a hotel is one thing, creating the clients to turn up and getting the revenue in is a completely other thing. There's just so many facets to it that people just don't understand, and it's not a thing like a vacation rental home where you can just give it to a property management company and walk away.
Yeah, right. And we tend to work with a lot of high-end luxury homes that are investment-based real estate homes that generate a nice rate of return. But that's reality. The owner wants to come down a few times a year at will, and they have somebody managing the ins and outs who are from Costa Rica or know Costa Rica and can do that job well. And it's a relatively low fee to do that, and they're hands off, and everything's handled for soup to nuts, and they get a nice return. So that's not really running a business, but to come down here and open and run a business, I mean, that's what you'd be doing in any country.
I mean, it can be profitable, again, if you know what it is that you're doing. But again, it's not, I've seen so many hotels here have difficulties, but there is a way to make it work. I think it just goes back to just making sure you've got a good team around you. But it just goes back to what are you not looking for? Sometimes, it's a good question to ask. What are you not looking for? Because if they're not looking to work every single day, it's probably that's not the right thing for them. I mean, as you said, a vacation rental might be better suited for them.
Right. And back to the team point, even in that respect, if you have a great team around you on any of your businesses, I mean, anywhere in the world, probably that's going to make or break, the situation for sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're a hotel buyer coming down here, I'm not trying to say don't do it, but understand that it's not in my opinion, it's not a hands-off job unless you have that team. And the good news is a lot of hotels that we have in our inventory list, for example, they just have not been well managed.
Yep.
They're in the right spot. They have the right ABCs to them. They may need a little more of this or that, but there's huge growth potential with them. And I've always thought if we find the right client, this thing could just be a monster. It could do great.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk the kind of Central Southern Pacific here. I mean, what are the hottest areas and the areas that you think are going to deliver great value?
It's like, well, the hottest areas, give me a fire hose there. There's some pretty hot areas in the Central Pacific. I think all of Costa Rica is really back on that curve I mentioned earlier.
Yep.
But I mean, I would point to Manuel Antonio, Costa Rica. The reality is it's out of land, so there's very limited pieces of land that people really want to own that are easily buildable with a great ocean view. Now, those are kind of the things people are looking for when they're coming to Costa Rica, from my opinion. They want to be close to the beach with ocean view or easy access, and they want easy access to the property as well. They don't have to go up a 40-minute dirt road and get beat up every day to and back and from the grocery store. And the reality is, in that market, Manuel Antonio geographically is really just a large mountain cliff and a beach, and then the national park at the end. So the whole front side, really, for the most part, has been bought and sold. So is it still moving? Yeah, it's got the marina, the national park. It's just a wonderful place to be. It's got amenities. Now, I would say that's a hot spot, but you're paying for a premium to live in that area too, and to invest in that area. But it does draw the tourism, like a lot of towns do, though. And then I would say the second, I think, that's had the most growth over the last 2 years would be Uvita. That's about maybe an hour and 15 minutes south of Manuel Antonio. Short drive reasonable drive from Dominical. That whole corridor, I think, is primed for the future, and it has been growing. Uvita specifically has been growing with the beautiful national park. It has the Whale's Tail, known by in English, park out there, and they have beautiful beaches up and down the coastline from there. That some are a little less discovered than others. I see that market kind of infilling a little bit from Manuel Antonio. Well, let's even go to Jaco, which is a different brand market in itself, because it's just a different vibe than Manuel Antonio. Then you've got a couple gaps, though. I would say Esterios, Matapalo, then you hit Dominical, down to Uvita, and even Ochal. Those are pretty hot areas going on. Ochal still is a little bit undervalued, but I think right now that it's the distance that it is from the airport. Maybe there's a small regional airport in Capos, and then obviously the one in San Jose. So those are kind of my hot spots.
Word on the street is on this southern, this southern airport, which bubbles up every kind of 3 or 4 years. But the president was down there the other day, so I think he got everyone excited again.
I'm sorry?
The president of Costa Rica was down in the southern area talking about the airport down there. So yeah, he's got everyone excited again.
Yeah, well, that would be great if they did that, but they've got a lot of environmental pushback, as you know. So I don't know. That's been on the docket, if you will, for I don't know, as long as 5-7 years.
I always say to Costa Rica, don't believe it until it's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't believe that road's going to be paved because the locals think that, or someone says it. Just wait till it's done, then it's done. Yeah, they are doing a lot of paving in most of these areas now, which is great news to see.
Definitely. Well, I mean, what listings do you have personally, Shawn, that excite you, and why?
Well, I'm going to cheat here a little bit. I think I've got 2. I think you said one or 2 listings. The one I really stands out in my mind is just it's a wonderful income producing luxury villa on about 2 acres, which is really hard to find these days, in Las Olas, just a little bit south of Dominical. It's a 9-bedroom, 8.5 bath or so on 2 acres, and it's cash on cash at about 10%.
It's a great deal. That's great.
Yeah, and it's up close ocean view. You're 5 minutes to the beach. Just a wonderful property. And the people who own it and selling it, they bought it, spent a lot of time, energy, And I think love, honestly, into the home because it just shows well, it looks well, it's beautifully located. It's one of these higher end luxury villas at like 3.3 million. Of course, every real estate person loves it, right? It's a big payday for anyone that sells it. Let's just be real about it. And I think one of my second favorites is a home, which is a 2-story newer construction. We'll just finish it into last year. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and it's in a little area or town called Parcellas, which is about 15 minutes from Capos. Now, it's not easy beach access, ocean view, or any of the things that people think about. But the reason I like it is that little town, I think, is kind of like an undiscovered little diamond. It is a very small town. I mean, you go everything, you get to know all the people in the area. They're very nice. They're very friendly. They're different than people on some of the beach towns that are a little more touristy, if you know what I'm saying. You get a little more different vibe. People are trying to, sell chairs and help you accommodate yourself while you're on vacation, which is fine. You get more of the trinket salesman. In these other areas, you don't. You've got people living life and doing what they do day to day. So I like that for these reasons. They're completely different properties, but also this guy or this husband and wife actually are selling this home with long-term financing, which is super rare and super hard to get in Costa Rica. They get a 15-year deal with a 40% down at a $279 asking price. So it checks all the boxes as far as the financials go, as far as ease of access. So people looking to move here, this is one of the ideal homes. Whereas the other one, to compare and contrast, would be more of the investment luxury buyer who wants to come down a few times a year. Most people, now I say most, not all, don't live in 9-bedroom homes, or 8-bedroom homes. So, I mean, if you want to, great. But I don't see that very often.
Well, I mean, I think you mentioned something unique there, which is a 10% return. You don't often see that, and ocean view and access to it. I mean, they're just as a vacation rental, having managed luxury vacation rentals myself and own them, having that is pretty key. People want to be close to town, but they also want stunning ocean views as well.
Yeah, and it checks all the boxes, and it's a large residence. So, and the neat thing we mentioned earlier in the hotel business is that this property is probably renting for less than it should be. I believe they have a 20 to 25% price increase due that they could charge because they've maxed their calendar out for the most part. They're just busy. Generally, when that happens, it means you can raise your rates a little bit. Now, I wouldn't raise them drastically overnight, but I would keep eking them up a little bit, keep pushing them until you find out that right balance to occupancy versus your price per night. And that's kind of an art and a science that a good management company or a good owner can kind of strike that balance.
Definitely. Shawn, just going back to the 3-bedroom property that you had in Parcellas, I mean, how much are they asking for that? Just because I know that's going to be a question that people are probably thinking right now.
Oh, sorry if I mentioned that. 279,000.
That's a pretty good price for a 3-bedroom place in down by the beach.
Yeah, well, that's the other reason I like it. It's the complete opposite types of homes, but I mean, 279 new construction, 2 stories, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I mean, it's a nice, livable home. And the cool thing about it too is that it's on 1,300 meters, but on one side you've got a green area that can't be developed. And on the back side, you have the backside of this home, you have the backside of another farm that butts up to it that is inaccessible for all intents and purposes. So you're at the end of a street and you have no one around you, except for one neighbor on one side.
Yeah.
So you have privacy in a small community that is all things Costa Rica, and then you have your little niche there at the very end of the road, and it's a wonderful home.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I'll put all your contact details in the description because I'm sure a couple of people will be interested in knowing more about that. But I mean, what do you think of the beach towns that are going to grow the most over the next 5 to 10 years?
Okay, well, Great question again.
Get your crystal ball out, Shawn.
Yeah, I wished I had. I was just thinking, I spent 20 years in the investment and insurance business, financial planning business, and I wished I had that crystal ball. Got that question a lot in that business. But I would say, based on the trends, Uvita's growing. Manuel Antonio, I would say, is on the getting to sold out kind of point of view, if you will. Dominical's steady Eddie. It's always been there. It's been growing, still growing, but they're running out of land too. Like I said, the whole ridgeline is running out of land.
Yeah.
So the pockets, I think I mentioned these earlier, that really need to infill between Jaco and Manuel Antonio Capos would be Estorrillos.
Yep.
One of the beaches well known in that area is Bajuco.
Yep.
And it's a neat little beach. Now, if Estorrillos and those, there's three Estorrilloses in there, Estorrillos, and there's east and west. But if you had the opportunity to look at those, they're just wonderful beaches as well. I think what's lacking is really services at this point. Where do I buy my groceries and whatnot?
Yep.
And I think the same thing applies in Matapala, which is between Dominical and Capos Manuel Antonio. Gorgeous beaches there. One beach that's mentioned a lot is Playa Linda, which, it's a great place to park your car and tailgate, hang out, go on the beach, throw the ball around, frisbee, whatever you're into, soccer ball, with the family and barbecue. Pull out your portable grill and just relax there on the tropical beach. It's wonderful. And that applies to all the beaches up and down the coast, quite frankly. Yeah. But prices are substantially lower in both those areas compared to the Uvitas of the world.
And there's a lot of beach.
Yep.
As well. There's a lot of beachfront there as well, right?
A ton.
Yeah.
And you don't bump into people all the time. It's definitely not a tourist spot yet, but I would expect over the next 5 to 10 years that those have got to be getting some traction.
I agree.
Yeah, just because, paying $200-300 a meter for land on the other, just 10 minutes south, starts not to make sense to some people.
Yeah. Well, especially when you're looking, as you mentioned there as a vacation rental, the numbers need to somewhat work.
Right, exactly. And there's that balance again between nightly rate, occupancy, and then what you pay for the property.
Yep.
So you got to figure out what is the cash on cash, what is the rate of return, net rate of return you're going to generate out of that house after expenses. So, with all that, you just got to do a smart calculation. And hopefully the owner, this is one thing I run into quite a bit. A lot of these individuals with hotels or luxury homes have ran what they say are profitable business, but they have no great records. Yep. I'm sure you've seen that. You're like, well, where are the records?
Well, how do you value this? Like, are you valuing it as a multiple of EBITDA, or is this replacement cost, or is this a?
Exactly, and that is the challenge. I run into this all the time, and I'm sure you have. I have 3 ways of looking at it. Okay, if we have great financials, we can review them and say, okay, these are real. This is an ROI X. Okay, and then generally, if that doesn't exist, then you have to look at bricks and mortar. What's it cost to build? What's replacement value? What's the land value? And then that's what the cost of the home should or should not be, or property. Or you do some comps of what's on the market, because without a multiple listing service here, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. There's no true multiple listing service in Costa Rica. A lot of us have data on properties sold as of the last few years, but it's not a huge history like you see in most countries because of the lack of centralized real estate multiple listing service. So with that, we can get some ideas of some recent sales that might help, as well as what's on the market. So you can kind of use that approach. There's really 3 approaches that we use. Now, the challenge, even with an MLS, is that even half a kilometer away, you might be in the same area, but your access is completely different. Your view is 100% different. You might have the same square foot lot, same square foot home, but you have an absolutely different setup, view, access, all sorts of things that can come into play. So whereas I'm from the US, so I use the US as an example. most people are buying into a new school district or a zip code, so they kind of know what the lay of the land is, and they're pretty homogenous. They're not much different from a mile away. Some areas are, I guess, but not that much.
Yeah. Well, Shawn, I've kept you enough. My last question for you, sir, which I love to ask everyone: if you were to invest or inherit, well, if you inherited $500,000 and had to invest it into a business or real estate in Costa Rica, what would you do with it and why?
Well, I've got a bent in real estate, of course, but I would take some of the lessons from my old life in the financial planning business. I would try to build some sort of diversification idea, right? Concept. I would probably put some in land.
Yep.
As maybe like a bond fund, I don't know, something like that. Kind of my thinking. And then, if you want to get a little more risky, and I think at this point in time, if you have the stomach for it, figure out how to build some homes, maybe some small spec homes.
Yep.
See where that goes. If you have more of a tolerance or maybe more funds, go a little larger, go into the development game.
Yeah.
We are lacking quality built homes in the market today. Now, is that changing? Yeah, we're seeing a lot of people come to the area. I saw a new group that I met yesterday. They're from Cartago. We have guys from San Jose coming, San Isidro coming, because they're seeing that there's an opportunity. Is it saturated at this point? No, not at all. Is there opportunities? I believe so in construction.
Yep.
And I think that'll go on and on and on. And then I think the third thing is maybe 3 and 4. I would look at flipping homes in properties, which I don't think we've done this yet, or I haven't seen this yet that much in Costa Rica, but looking for homes that are undervalued for the neighborhood.
Yep.
And maybe they're run down, need updating. And I've seen a lot of really nice high-end homes that just need a facelift. And you can make some money doing that. And I think it kind of depends on, what kind of fits your mold. Your cup of tea, I guess. As far as buying a vacation rental or a vacation business, I think you really can't go wrong. Tourism in Costa Rica is strong, and I think it's going to remain strong. I mean, Costa Rica's got a brand name like Coca-Cola for tourism.
It does. I mean, it's incredible, the brand that the country has. And I mean, I look at the arrival stats, and also have, a view into hotels and also travel companies here. And like, it's not slowing down. 2023 will probably be the biggest year this country has ever had.
Yeah. I don't
and real estate follows travel. I mean, when we have great travel years, we have great real estate years.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt at all. And then where else? I've thought about this because, of course, as being a business owner and entrepreneur, I think about where would I go next? What country?
Wow.
And I'm not going to go. Yeah, I mean, just think about it. I got the reasons why. I got all the reasons why I won't go north or south of here.
Yeah.
And then what's next? I mean, to live for this area, for example, to have an ocean view home, easy access to the beach, and the lifestyle for the price that people are paying, you can't buy it.
I agree.
Not in this hemisphere.
I agree. Well,
and with the safety and security and all that. So, I mean, just some thoughts.
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, this country has all of the elements, and it's all been very organic here, and like it's a safe, healthy place to live.
Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely.
Well, Shawn, this has been great. I really appreciate you taking the time out of what I know is a very busy day to chat with us here on the podcast. I will include all of your details in the description, but really appreciate your time, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Great rest of the week.
Sounds good, Shawn.
All right. Thank you.
I hope you guys enjoyed that, I would say, more logical viewpoint on kind of real estate here in Costa Rica. As you can see, Shawn comes with 20 years of a background in financial planning and executive level here. So it's very refreshing to kind of get that input. I mean, it's very similar to the view that I have here, on Costa Rica. So we were just chatting kind of a little bit offline on that. But, if anyone wants to reach out to Shawn, you can. All of his contact details will be in the description. Anyone that wants to reach out to us about investing in Costa Rica, again, we really kind of guide and make sure you have kind of a soft landing and understand all aspects of investing here. Basically people hire us kind of as consultants to be on their side of the, on their side of the transaction, making sure they're making the right decisions and looking out for them without us, kind of focusing on kind of the commissions. So you can reach out to us, info@investingcostarica.com. That's info@investingcostarica.com. But until the next podcast, guys, we'll catch you later. Bye.
The #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.